our military and intelligence services detected that the Iranians seem to be preparing for some kind of complex attack, either against a U.S. facility or against U.S. troops, which obviously we put troops into the area to safeguard against that possibility.
A story that's in the news today is Iran. The Secretary of State, Pompeo, says their U.S. assessment is that Iran is responsible for the attacks on 2 oil tankers in the Gulf of Oman. Do you believe him, number one? And second, if this is Iran that's behind this, what should the U.S. do right now?
What I believe is that this is an administration that is gunning for war, gunning for war, gunning for war in Iran.
Prime Minister Abe was in Iran during this attack.
As the first Japanese prime minister to visit Iran in 4 decades, Abe is looking to position himself as a mediator between rivals Tehran and Washington.
The greatest threat to peace and security in the Middle East is the Islamic Republic of Iran.
Because I really do believe we will be greeted as liberators.
That the Tehran regime is the central problem in the Middle East.
Escalating tensions with Iran, the Iranian foreign minister warning that the U.S. can't expect to stay safe after starting what he called, quote, an economic war.
What are they doing? They run the civil war in Syria. They toppled the Yemen regime, which was friendly to the United States and to our allies. Their undue malign influence inside Iraq. They provide all the rockets and missiles to the Hezbollah and to the Hamas. Hamas just a few weeks ago fired close to 600 at them. Virtually every one of those is an Iranian missile. That's where we are.
President Trump issued a tough new warning to Iran today, suggesting that if Tehran wants to fight, it will be, in his words, the official end of Iran. The official end of Iran. The official end of Iran.
In its latest show of force, the U.S. military released these images today, showing the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and an amphibious assault ship conducting joint exercises in the Persian Gulf, ready to respond to, quote, credible threats.
Even as Tehran-backed militias are accused of firing a rocket near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad today, and tensions flare in the Persian Gulf.
The Trump administration is doubling down on its claim that Iran and militias tied to it are planning attacks against American forces in the region. Adding to the tensions in the past week, the U.S. withdrew its non-essential staff from its embassy in Baghdad. U.S. officials claimed it's highly likely Iranian forces were behind attacks on 4 oil tankers, a charge Tehran denies, and U.S. diplomats warned commercial airlines flying over the Persian Gulf of the potential for miscalculation or misidentification by Iranian military forces.
2 oil tankers involved in an attack near the Strait of Hormuz, and Secretary of State Mike Pompeo saying that Iran is the suspected culprit.
It is the assessment of the United States government that the Islamic Republic of Iran is responsible for the attacks that occurred in the Gulf of Oman today. This assessment is based on intelligence, the weapons used, the level of expertise needed to execute the operation, recent similar Iranian attacks on shipping.
Now, tensions with Iran, of course, have been high recently, and the U.S. has warned that Iranian aggression will be met with force. Will be met with force. Will be met with force. We are just learning, by the way, that the U.S. has video of Iran's military removing unexploded mines from one of the tankers that was hit. Joining me now is retired Brigadier General Anthony Tata. Anthony, thank you for being here. He is author, of course, of Reaper Threat Zero. General, this new video, the new information about the video that has been discovered kind of seals the case against Iran, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does, David, and it's just a good example of this administration using information warfare, getting that thing out there right away, trying to own the narrative when, in fact, earlier in the day, Iran was saying they had nothing to do with it and that they were helping the tankers that were attacked, when, in fact, they have been harassing ships in the Straits of Hormuz for decades now, ever since 1979, when the Shah was, 40 years ago, when the Shah was overthrown. They've been doing this in the Persian Gulf. They've been trying to destroy America, it's trying to destroy Israel, and which is why the Obama deal made no sense to anyone that thinks strategically about Iran. They're the #1 state sponsor of terror, and they export that everywhere, and they try to disrupt Israel, they try to disrupt America, and they try to disrupt and destroy the world economy by disrupting the flow of oil in the Persian Gulf.
Many people are taking the prospect of a war between the US and Iran very seriously. Berlin is trying to convince Tehran to remain committed to the nuclear agreement it made 4 years ago, despite US sanctions that are damaging Iran's economy. Foreign Minister Heiko Maas called the Iran conflict one of the biggest of our time. He emphasized that nobody wants an escalation. Convincing Washington and Tehran to lay off the hawkish rhetoric won't be easy. A lot has happened since the US withdrew from the nuclear accord last year. In May, President Donald Trump approved the sale of billions of dollars in weapons to Iran's rival Saudi Arabia, and he's increased the US's military presence in the Gulf. Iran calls the moves dangerous psychological warfare.
Whoever starts a war with us will not be the one to finish it.
And Iran is growing impatient.
If we do not see that concrete actions by the remaining members of the nuclear deal are being taken and economic terrorism against Iran continues, we will take the next step. We will take the next step. We will take the next step.